Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Park Planning Panel discussion. My name is Michael Sennett. I'm the Stellar Communities Program Manager, and this is part of our monthly micro-learning series where we take easily digestible topics from partners around the state and present them to our communities to help inform about programs and offices and goings-on, either within state agencies or in other nonprofits or regions, so that if you have an interest or a need that needs to be addressed, hopefully you can use these micro-learnings as a resource to help address any needs or issues in your community. So today we'll be talking primarily about park planning through DNR. I have with me Greg Bifus from DNR, and I have Miss Vicki Kitchen, who is the clerk treasurer from North Liberty, which is also a Stellar community. So I've got some introduction slides here, and I'll let Greg sort of introduce himself, and we'll move on to Miss Vicki, and then we'll kind of get into some topics. So Greg, if you want to get started.
Good morning. I'm Greg Bifus with the DNR Division of Outdoor Recreation. I'm Chief Planner for the division. I'm the Program Manager for the local 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan program, and I'm also lead author for the statewide Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan, the SCORP, for the state of Indiana.
Great, thank you. Ms. Vicki?
Hi, I'm Vicki Kitchen. I'm the Clerk Treasurer for the town of North Liberty. I've been in office since 2004. And North Liberty has been blessed with numerous grants. Of course, the best thing that we have achieved is the 2015 Stellar Designate for communities under 6,000, which was the program in place at that time. So we have built on that, and we have done several projects and are coming to a close on that.
Great. All right. I'm going to send it back up to just this regular boring old slide. All right, Greg, if you could take a second to talk about the park planning process and the template. My understanding is there's a template for communities that's under 7,000, which asks for certain criteria, and then there's a template that they would fill in for communities that are over 7,000. Could you talk just briefly about the differences in the two requirements and just the kind of process overall?
Okay, the 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan process through DNR is actually fairly straightforward. It's designed to be accessible to anybody. It's not just something designed strictly for professional park planners. It's designed to be used by ordinary park boards or volunteer citizens working with the planning process in local communities. There's basically 2 formats for park plans in Indiana that we accept. And you can do within that format almost whatever you want, but there's basically minimum guidelines that you need to be following. The first format is the small town fill-in-the-blank park master plan, and that's designed for smaller communities with simpler systems, under 7,000 population, and it's basically a fill-in-the-blank template. There's an instruction set with it that walks you through the process. It's very straightforward. It's very short. It's designed to be short, concise, and simple. The larger format version is for communities over 7,000 population who have larger systems, much more complexity, often a great number of employees and parks to take care of, so it's much more involved, much more detailed, and it's designed basically to work with an entire system for those communities above 7,000 population. There's a kind of template you can use for that called the Anytown, Indiana Example 5-Year Master Plan. So there is a template in place for the larger plan format. It's also both of these are available on our park planning website, and you can go get them as a free download anytime you wish. They can be done in-house, partly by a consultant, or fully by a consultant. An entirely community-driven choice, whatever the community needs.
Great, thank you. Vicki, what kind of experience do you have with park planning through DNR?
So when the town was filing their OCRA comprehensive plan, we found that there was more that we needed to build on in our historic town park. And so we did follow the DNR small town fill in the blank 5-year parks and recreation master plan template for communities under 7,000, just because we have a lot of things that we need. We have a very competitive community that has an active park recreation program, and so we wanted some community input, our park board to get the results from that so they could do their planning for their next 5 years. So it was a great process, and it has been beneficial to the town.
Great, thank you. I think the question I have, Greg, is with some plans, at the end of the 5 years, do they have to go back to the template and create a new master plan? If they didn't necessarily get through all components of the master plan, can they continue to work on it and move it through the next 5 years, or is it sort of like a hard and fast 5 years new submission?
There is a new submission for either format every 5 years, okay, but it's basically an iterative process. So the idea is you're taking the old plan and then building on it. So if there's things you didn't get done, you take the baseline old plan, adapt it, put new information in it, so you've got new demographics, you've got new public input, and new needs assessment, and all that goes into the new plan. So it's kind of updating each plan as you go. So the plan actually gets better and better and better over time. You can add more detail, it gets richer, and the thought process behind it tends to get deeper as you go.
Great, that's great. Vicki, you obviously then with yours being complete in 2015, you'll be gearing up for a new one shortly?
Yes, ours was actually approved in 2016. We started the process in 15. So, yes, we will be ramping up. We have done some of our things in our plan, and we still have a ways to go. But it's about the process and getting the community involved.
Absolutely. Thank you. What are some of the measurable, and I think this is from both sides. So, Greg, like from what you see from a planning standpoint, what are some of the measurable or like positive impacts from these plans that you've seen? And then, Vicki, when Greg is finished, what have you seen that's been a positive outcome or a measurable, or a metric that you have tracked through the park master plan?
Most communities that go through this planning process have never really had the opportunity to step back and look big picture, and not only how the community as a whole works with its park and recreation system, but how the parks and recreation system affects the community at large. So there's a great deal of thinking and brainstorming, and just the thought process is very valuable for most communities. So there's one positive outcome. The next tends to be that they haven't necessarily spoken in much detail with their publics. So they haven't asked people what they want. What do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? If you have people who in the community do not use the parks, why not? And what can you do better so that you attract people to your parks? So there's a public input component that is wrapped into the park planning process. That's another benefit. The next thing is it enables them to basically go forward proactively in their planning. So now you've got forward thinking going on. You've thought in advance about what your problems are and how you can solve them. And that tends to be a money saver, a time saver, and a saver of staff time. Then you've got the fiscal portion of it, where you now have a chance to actually go for various grant programs, including land and water, recreational trails program, shooting range, and then there are other programs outside DNR. These plans are not necessarily a requirement for that, but you'll discover that having that plan in place makes it that much easier to actually do that grant application, because all your information is set, your ducks are lined up, and you're ready to go for the grant application.
Great, thank you. Vicki?
I really enjoy involving our public when we get ready to do something. We have an elderly population, predominantly according to our census numbers, and so we, old school wise, send out surveys in our utility bills, because most of those people come in person to pay their utility bills and would bring their surveys back that way. We did put a Survey Monkey out there and offered it on our website and stuff for the younger techie type families to respond to our survey, so we could get all the information that we needed for our plan. You know, we held a public hearing, and they're really hard to get people to attend, especially the young families, getting people out of their, you know, supper time and their other activities and stuff. So we had some boards made by our consultant that we posted at community events. We put one in a church lobby for a Sunday service. We had a upcoming fish fry, so we put the board there, left surveys there, and then we left them around the community because we're rural, and so some of the people in the townships around us come to our community to do their banking or go to the post office and that. So we left them out because those people are important to us as well as the taxpayers that actually live here, because they utilize our community and they consider us their home, so they don't have to run to the, South Bend or something. So we wanted the community input from everybody, and it's a struggle to get people to answer those surveys. But at the same time, when they see the benefit, especially going through the process with our town comprehensive plan, we did get a lot of input for the park.
Great. Okay. And then I think lastly, before we wrap up, just Greg, what are some of the challenges, if any, that you see with the park planning or park planning process, or what's some of the typical feedback that you provide, if any? And then Vicki, if you've had any challenges, I think you sort of addressed with the community input, but if you've had any challenges that come to mind in regards to this, I'd like to hear both perspectives.
The most common issues that we see with the park plans, both the full-size version and the fill-in-the-blank template, is people tend to struggle with, exactly as Vicki says, she's exactly right. The public input tends to be very tough. People are very busy nowadays. Getting that feedback is very, very difficult. We have a number of suggestions on the planning webpage talking about out-of-the-box public input. It's all within the planning guidelines. So, you know what? It's a community thing where you can come up with new and unique ways of getting that public input. We're not looking for a scientific methodology for surveying. It's all about getting your feedback from your people in whatever means you can to get it across from them to your planning process. There's also issues with planning in accessibility. People don't understand the ADA very well. It's a very complex, very large piece of federal legislation, and even DNR struggles with ADA compliance. So a lot of communities struggle with that. We have tips, tricks, and ideas also in the planning guidelines talking about that, and then there's also guidance available from the United States Access Board and their accessibility guidelines. The other thing that people tend to struggle with is simply looking at both the larger picture for the community as a whole and then drilling down to the parks level. You're not just simply answering information in your plan about the parks themselves. You're actually looking at the entire community, because it's not just your parks, it's your entire community and all the people in it and around it. So there's a much larger picture that needs to be taken into account when you're doing your planning process. And it's much more valuable to the community when they're doing their plan to do that more holistic view and then drill down to the details about your parks.
Thank you. Vicki?
Our park is a WPA park, town park. I mean, it was established back in the 30s, so of course all of the stonework and things that are in our park, the walls, aren't ADA accessible. And so that is a challenge for people with disabilities to be able to use our park. So that was a big part of our plan when we did this. So, the town went through the process to get the 5-year park plan and get it approved. We did apply for a land and water grant, which we did receive for our spray pad that is completely ADA accessible, and now there is a small parking lot down there for ADA, so they can access part of our park. Of course, we are working, and as improvements are added to our park, we are making them ADA accessible. Some of the equipment, our park board just this last week is getting ready to put a swing set by our spray pad, or planning depending or encumbering money for that for next year, and they want to put a 3-section swing set up, one that has traditional swings, one that has a baby and me swing, and one that has a fully ADA wheelchair swing in it, so we can add to the features because our park has not been community friendly. I would also like to add in our land and water grant application and getting everybody involved age group wise. The funnest thing I've ever done is I held a public hearing for children 10 and under, and we had all the features of our spray pad that we intended to use, because I don't know, I'm not going to use the spray pad. I want to see it used and utilized, but the kids are the ones that are going to use it. So we had all the features laid out to involve the public and gave the kids 10 stickers apiece, and let them pick what they thought was cool. And it was so much fun to involve them into the whole process, so they had some ownership in the spray pad after the park plan was done.
That's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's a really creative and a great way to engage the community, so thank you. Okay, well, I really think that's the end of some of the questions that I had, and kind of falls in line with where we are in the micro-learning series. I hope that as you watch this, you found the information provided informative, but I also hope that it leads to more questions or further discussions with either Greg or Vicki. I know that she would welcome conversation about Stellar or about her, anything that she has worked on. Both are great resources for this type of project, but for other projects as well. And you can access their contact information from the other 2 slides with their information on it. Immediately, or after this recording, Greg has also recorded a separate micro-learning series that focuses more in depth on park planning. And so we're going to post these 2 things in conjunction. So if you have more questions or if you want to know more about it, see the links, see the templates that he was talking about, where to access those, kind of all of the things before you would reach out. It'll also be posted in conjunction with this. So really all I want to do is thank both Greg and Vicki for being a part of this. And if you have any questions about Stellar, please feel free to reach out to the Okra office. If you have questions about park planning or other DNR programs, you can always reach out to Greg. And if you want to talk specifically about a community's Stellar bid or park planning or really anything in general, Ms. Vicki is absolutely a wonderful resource. So please feel free to utilize any of the 3 of us, and that'll do it for us. So have a good day. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.